The guide will make it look like an accident lost in the desert. Dehydrated. Gone. Those were the first words I heard when I stepped back into my house 3 days earlier than my daughter expected. I froze in the hallway, suitcase still in my hand, the echo of her voice sliding under my skin like ice. That moment should have broken me. Instead, it opened a door I had never intended to walk through. My name is Marielle Cortland. I am 62. Before all of this, my life in Santa Fe had settled into something steady. I cooked simple meals, walked the same quiet streets, checked in on the same neighbors I had known for decades. Retirement softened my days, and I held on to a small, stubborn hope that my daughter Lydia and I might eventually find our way back to each other. We had walked through too many years of distance, too many arguments that hardened into silence. Then, out of nowhere, she changed. She called more often. She stopped by after work with takeout. She hugged me like she meant it. And one morning, with bright eyes and trembling hands, she surprised me with a fully paid trip to Morocco. A birthday gift. "Mom," she said, "you deserve to relax, to feel alive again." I wanted to believe her. I tried to. But small details caught in my mind like burrs the way she rushed me to accept the exact travel dates. The insistence on a private desert excursion, the sudden concern about my stress levels. Whenever I asked how she could afford such a generous trip, she smiled too quickly and changed the subject. I hugged her, thanked her, and packed my bags. Yet even then, something in me tightened quiet, alert. As I boarded the plane, the unease followed, and it would only grow from here. Lydia was 8 years old the first time I worked a double shift in the emergency room and came home to find her asleep on the living room floor, curled around the cold side of a pillow like she was waiting for someone who forgot to come back. I remember brushing her hair off her cheek, whispering that I was sorry. I said those words so many times through her childhood, I sometimes wonder if they became the wallpaper of our house. When she turned 13, the apologies stopped working. "You are never here," she snapped once, wrestling her backpack onto one shoulder. "Everyone else's mom shows up. You just call, 'I am trying.'" I whispered, "I am tired," she shot back. By high school, she learned silence instead of shouting. She would pass me in the hallway, earbuds in, her eyes sliding past mine as if I were a stranger renting a room in her life. Then my husband died, her father, the one who made her pancakes on Sundays and taught her how to change a tire. The grief gutted her. It gutted both of us. But she demanded answers from me that I never had. "You should have seen something," she cried. "You worked in a hospital. Mom, how did you not know there was nothing to know?" I said quietly. His heart simply stopped. For a long time after that, Lydia drifted. She moved through our house like she was underwater. College put miles between us. Then her marriage added more. So when she recently started calling again, when she began asking if I had eaten dinner or needed help changing light bulbs, I felt a small blooming in my chest. She stood in my kitchen with grocery bags and told me she missed me. She held my hands as if they were fragile. "I want us to be close again," she said. I believed her, or I wanted to believe her. Some days I could almost feel the warmth returning, the old closeness I thought was gone forever. But other moments, quiet pauses, 2 perfect smiles made something inside me tighten. Her kindness felt rehearsed, like she was reading from a page I could not see. Still, I nodded whenever she reached for me. I held on every time she tried. I needed the hope, even if the hope had seams. Marrakesh was louder than any place I had been in years. Yet somehow I felt quieter inside myself than I had in a decade. The first morning, the hotel concierge handed me a small cup of mint tea and said, "Welcome, madam. Here, you breathe differently." I almost laughed at how right he was. Still, even as I walked through the markets, something in me stayed alert. Lydia had insisted on the private Sahara excursion. "You will love it. Mom, it is the safest tour," she said. She repeated the word safe so many times, it tangled in my mind. I tried to shake the feeling. I let a vendor place a bright scarf around my shoulders. I shared a brief conversation with a guide who asked where I was from. "New Mexico." I answered. He smiled. "Ah, desert to desert." By the second day, I felt a surprising looseness in my chest. I sat on a rooftop terrace eating dinner alone when my phone buzzed. The name on the screen, Ruth Callahan, made my heart pull tight. Ruth had lived 2 houses down from me in Santa Fe for over 20 years. She had been the one who left soup on my doorstep after my husband died, the one who checked on me every storm season. Her voice trembled the moment I picked up. "Marielle, it's me. I did not want to scare you, but I thought you needed to know. I'm at the hospital." "What happened?" My fork slipped from my hand. "I collapsed this morning. They say my heart was unstable. Daniel is here, but he said he couldn't reach Lydia. She didn't pick up. I asked the paramedic to find my phone. I needed to hear your voice." I stood from the table, one hand already reaching for my purse. "Ruth, I am coming home." "You are in Morocco," she whispered. "Do not rush back for me. I am not staying here while you are alone in a hospital room." My voice left no room for argument. After I hung up, I called the airline. "I need the earliest flight to Santa Fe," I said. "We have 1 seat available tomorrow morning." The agent replied, "Book it." When I told Lydia, she replied within seconds, "Mom, do not change your plans. Enjoy the trip." I stared at her message. Something in her tone felt too urgent. I turned off my phone, finished packing, and told myself I would sort out the strange feeling later. But the moment I landed back home, I would understand exactly why she wanted me to stay away. I reached my house in Santa Fe just after midday, still carrying the dust of Morocco on my clothes. My suitcase thumped once against the doorway before I could stop myself. I had planned to shower, call Ruth, and let the jet lag settle. But the moment I stepped inside, I heard a voice that froze every nerve in my body. "Lydia." She was in my living room. I could not see her, but her tone was sharp, clipped nothing like the soft concern she had used when she sent me off to North Africa. "Yes," she said quietly. "The guide knows the plan. He will make it look like an accident." Lost in the desert. Dehydrated. Gone. My hand tightened around the suitcase handle. A man answered her, "Evan." "Are you sure he understands the timeline?" he asked. "We need it to happen before the policy closes. The payout is only guaranteed if I know." Lydia snapped. "That is why it has to be Friday. The private excursion is already paid for. She will wander too far from the group. They will find her too late." My breath caught. Evan lowered his voice. "What about the premium? That was a lot of money." Lydia exhaled sharply. $200,000 is nothing compared to the $3 million we get if she dies. Lydia snapped. $3 million. Evan, she whispered. Plus the house. And we need it. Your creditors are already calling. I closed my eyes. There it was, the truth laid bare. Spoken between my daughter and the man she married. My trip to Morocco had never been a gift. It had been a sentence. Evan hesitated, and if someone suspects something, who Lydia said, she went on a dream vacation alone. She is older. The desert is brutal. It happens all the time. I pressed my back to the hallway wall, willing myself not to make a sound. Evan spoke again, softer this time. I just do not want this to go wrong. It will not. Lydia replied, by Monday, we'll file the claim. After that, it's just paperwork. A silence followed long, heavy, final. My suitcase slipped from my hand and landed on the hardwood floor. A dull thud that felt like the closing of a door I could never reopen. My daughter had chosen my death long before I heard the words, and I was only just beginning to understand how deliberate she had been. I waited until the house was silent before moving. Lydia and Evan had left only minutes earlier, their voices still echoing in the corners of my mind. I sat at the edge of my bed, hands steady even as my chest tightened. 30 years in emergency rooms had taught me how to hold still when everything was falling apart. I picked up my phone and dialed the hotel in Marrakesh. Bonjour. How may I assist you? The clerk asked. This is Marielle Cortland. I checked out early today. My daughter arranged a private Sahara excursion for me later this week. I need to confirm the details. There was a pause as he typed. Yes. Madam, a private tour with Guide Nadir El Moussa, scheduled for Friday morning. Already paid in full. My nails pressed into my palm. Paid by whom? By your daughter, Madam Cortland. She used the same card she used for your reservation. I swallowed. Is it possible to cancel? Of course, Madam. But the payment is non-refundable. It was processed as guaranteed service. I hesitated, then asked, my daughter mentioned a private photography stop. Something about letting me walk out for a few quiet shots away from everyone. Is that written into the itinerary? The clerk paused. Yes, Madame. The notes mention a solo photo moment you requested to step beyond visual range for about 30 minutes. And the guide acknowledged it. I understand. Please cancel it. When I ended the call, my heart settled into something colder. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a plan. I opened my laptop and logged into my financial accounts. The loading screen felt like an accusation. There it was, an updated life insurance policy. The beneficiary change had been processed 2 months earlier. Lydia's name sat alone on the line where my late husband's used to be. Evan's name was listed as secondary. A message in the activity log read, updated by secondary access holder. I closed my eyes. I had given Lydia temporary access last year. After my surgery, she had never returned the login. She'd framed it as just in case. Mom, if you ever end up back under anesthesia. I remembered signing a simple authorization form without reading the fine print, still groggy and trusting. A knock on my open door pulled me back. It was my neighbor, Ruth's son, Daniel, still wearing his EMT badge. Mom asked me to check on you. He said, she worries when you travel alone. I forced a small smile. I appreciate it. He lingered. Listen, Evan has been asking around town for money, gambling debt, bad people. The air shifted around us. They owe over $200,000, Daniel added quietly. He is desperate. I nodded once. Thank you for telling me. After he left, I sat alone in the dim room. The Morocco trip, the private desert tour, the insurance change, the debts. It all fit. This was not panic. This was certainty, and certainty required a plan of my own. Grace Hollander opened the door before I could knock twice. She had practiced law with my late husband for over 15 years, and her expression shifted the moment she saw my face. Marielle, she said softly. What happened? I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. I heard Lydia planning my death. Grace didn't blink. She gestured toward the table. Sit. Tell me everything. I repeated every word I had overheard Lydia's timeline. The desert plan, Evan's debts, the insurance policy. Grace listened without interrupting, pen gliding across her legal pad with the precision of a surgeon. When I finished, she exhaled once. We need to act immediately, but hearing isn't enough in court, she added. We need an attempted act, something tangible. If they try to drug you, that's our cleanest line. What do? We change your will today. Lydia receives nothing. Your assets go into a protected trust. Her voice grew firmer. We freeze every account, and we begin building a record dates calls, logins, anything she touched. I want everything documented, I said. Grace nodded and reached for a stack of forms. Then we prepare for whatever they try next. You follow my instructions exactly. By the time I left her office, the sun had shifted low in the sky. I drove home with a folder of legal copies in my purse and a heaviness in my chest that had nothing to do with fear. Lydia's car was already in my driveway. She met me at the door with a bright smile and a grocery bag. "Mom, I brought you vitamins. They help with fatigue after long flights." I forced my voice steady. "You are thoughtful." She followed me into the kitchen and immediately opened my medicine cabinet. "You take too many pills in random directions. Let me organize everything for you." Before I could answer, she poured my medications onto the counter: blood pressure, cholesterol, supplements, and sorted them into a new weekly organizer. Her movements were quick, too quick, like someone rehearsing. She held up 2 small white tablets I didn't recognize. "It's just melatonin," she said lightly. "For jet lag, you'll sleep better tonight." I nodded and reached for my phone as if checking the time. Instead, I slid my finger across the screen and turned on the voice recorder. Setting it face down on the counter, the kitchen hummed softly. Every sound was being captured now. "Of course," I said. Lydia smiled, satisfied. She didn't notice I was watching her reflection in the window, memorizing every detail. The poison was already inside my kitchen, and I still had to pretend I hadn't seen a thing. I set the table just the way Lydia liked it when she was a child. Cloth napkins folded neatly. The good plates. A roast that filled the house with warmth that meant nothing tonight. My hands moved calmly, but every motion felt sharpened by the knowledge of what was coming. Grace waited outside with 2 officers parked down the street. "We don't move on suspicion alone." She'd told me, "We move when they attempt it." The insurance logs and the Morocco call gave us a pattern tonight would give us the act. All I had to do was play my part. Lydia arrived first. Carrying a bottle of wine, Evan followed, his smile too tight. "Mom, you look tired," Lydia said, brushing a hand over my arm as she walked in. "Maybe the trip exhausted you." I nodded. "A little." We sat. Conversation slid across the surface like oil. "How was Morocco?" Evan asked. "Beautiful," I said. "But I am glad to be home." Lydia's eyes flicked toward the kitchen. "Let me make you tea." "You always sleep better with it." I watched her move. She reached into her purse, palmed something, and stepped behind the counter. Evan kept talking something about work. Something about a project he would never finish, but my eyes stayed on Lydia. I heard the soft crush of pills against ceramic, a sound I would never forget. A moment later, she returned with a steaming mug. "Chamomile with honey," she said. "Just how you like it." "Thank you," I replied. I lifted the cup, let it touch my lips, then lowered it again as if savoring the warmth. Lydia watched every movement. When I set it down, she relaxed. We continued eating. I let my eyelids grow heavy, my words slow. "Maybe I should lie down," I murmured. Lydia stood quickly. "Let me help you." "No," I whispered, rising unsteadily. "I can manage." I walked down the hallway, letting my hand skim the wall as if I needed the support. I left the door cracked just enough. 10 minutes later, their voices floated toward me. "It is working," Lydia whispered. "She will be out soon." I steadied my breathing, waited for the signal. Outside, Grace texted one word: "Ready." The trap was closing, and Lydia did not see a single thread of it tightening. I waited until Lydia leaned over my bed, 2 fingers pressed to my wrist, listening for a slowing pulse that would never come. Evan hovered behind her, whispering, "How long until she stops breathing?" Their voices were steady, certain, practiced. Then the front door burst open. Santa Fe police step away from the room. Lydia jerked back so fast she hit the dresser. Evan froze, his mouth open, already searching for someone else to blame. 2 officers moved past them, and Grace stepped inside with the calm of a woman who had seen every version of human betrayal. "Marielle," she said gently, "you can open your eyes now. I did." Lydia's face collapsed. "Mom, what? How?" Grace raised her phone. "We have your own voice." "Lydia," Grace said, lifting her phone. "The moment you crushed the pills and the moment you said, 'She'll be out soon,' an officer lifted the mug from my nightstand. Gloved hands steady. "We're sending this to the lab," the officer said calmly. "But it smells like a heavy sedative dangerous for someone your mother's age." Evan pointed at Lydia immediately. "It was her. She planned everything." Lydia spun toward him. "You needed the money. You said $200,000 would fix everything." I stood, my voice quiet but sharp enough to cut through both of them. "You did not want me relaxed." I said. "You wanted me gone." Lydia shook her head, tears falling too late to matter, but the truth was already out. And nothing either of them said could change what they had chosen. The morning after the arrests, my house felt too quiet, as if even the walls were trying to understand what had happened. Lydia and Evan were taken in separate cars. I watched from the doorway, not because I wanted to, but because my body would not let me look away. Grace stayed beside me. "You did everything right," she said. I nodded, though nothing felt right. My daughter had tried to kill me. That truth settled into my bones like cold air that refused to leave. Neighbors came by throughout the day. Daniel checked the locks on my doors. Ruth arrived with trembling hands and said, "I should have told you sooner about Evan's debts." I hugged her anyway. None of this was hers to carry. In the days that followed, the paperwork began. Statements, depositions, evidence logs. Each form was another reminder of what Lydia and Evan had chosen. When Grace asked what I wanted to do with my assets now that Lydia was removed from everything, I answered without hesitation. Give part of it to the senior protection nonprofit downtown, quietly. The rest, I kept, not for luxury, but for distance. A month later, I moved into a smaller casita near Canyon Road. The sun hit the adobe walls differently there, softer, less judgmental. I planted herbs outside the kitchen window and learned the creak of the new floorboards. The grief did not disappear, but it changed shape. It no longer swallowed me whole. It simply walked beside me, silent, familiar. And for the first time in years, my life belonged only to me. 6 months later, I no longer woke expecting fear. My days unfolded in softer ways, pottery classes on Tuesdays, morning walks along the dusty Santa Fe trails, quiet dinners I cooked only for myself. I learned the weight of my own silence, and for the first time in years it felt gentle instead of lonely. The letters started arriving in the 3rd month, all written in Lydia's hurried handwriting. "Mom, please answer. Mom." Evan pushed me into everything. "Mom, I am sorry. I swear I never meant." I read each envelope only long enough to know who sent it. Then I set them aside in a drawer I rarely opened. Forgiveness was not something I could force. Not now. Maybe not ever. One evening, during pottery class, Ruth stopped by my workstation. "You look lighter," she said. "I feel lighter," I answered. When class ended, I walked home slowly, holding a bowl I had shaped with my own hands. Imperfect, uneven, but mine. At my doorstep, I paused, listening to the wind sweep across the adobe walls. My life was smaller now, but it finally fit me. I breathed in the quiet, and it breathed back. If this story reached you, like and subscribe so more people can hear it too. Once you reclaim your peace at 62, what future finally opens?